course, my favorite topic. I've been at USF for a really long time. It's my first job out of grad school. I actually started on the faculty, are you ready for this, in 1971. I was the youngest faculty member at the time, and now I think I'm moving towards being one of the oldest. I had a wonderful career and taught for many, many years. One of my favorite classes was Introduction to Art, so I feel like I'm always introducing people to the value of the arts. And then I kind of wondered what could I do as a career, so I started curating exhibitions. And curators, not to pat myself on the back, are the most important people in any organization. They are what design the programming for us, and I'll be speaking about the value of arts professionals. So we were just a little galleries program, then we became a museum, so we have actually a museum on campus. It's not very big, it's only about 13,000 square feet with about 5,000 square feet of exhibition space. I'm expanding. I'm doing a project over in St. Pete, so I'm really excited about that. That will give us another 3,100 square feet. I'll tell you about that in a moment. And then 15 years ago, the then dean, Ron Jones, called me up and said, Hank Hine, the director of Graphic Studio, is moving over to be the director of the Dali. Could you just take over Graphic Studio and run that too? And I said, well, I'd love to. And it's absolutely been an extraordinary privilege to be able to direct Graphic Studio. And as Bill said, we bring in really major artists emerging and acclaimed from all over the world. I feel so strongly that international cultural exchange, introducing our students and our community to other cultures and traditions, and the leading artists from other places is absolutely critical to building the ecosystem, to building the vibrancy of the Tampa Bay. So, in addition to that, we have a public art program. So the state of Florida says 1/2 of 1%, that's a tiny amount of money, up to $100,000, should go for art in any state-built facility. So on campus, when we have a building that's funded by the state, then we have the privilege of selecting artwork. So we were recognized as one of the 10 best university public art collections. And then that has led me to a wonderful opportunity to work with some local developers on trying to advise them on what they might do to really bring extraordinary, excellent cultural dimension to their developments. So I work with strategic property partners, particularly with James Nozar, and on that little invitation that was sent out to you, you saw the neon sign, but it's really a public artwork by a Black Bahamian artist, Tavera Strachan, and it says, "You belong here." And as Tavera said, it's like mouthing the words to a song. When you sing a song or recite in your head a poem, those words become you. And your attitude and your behavior may be a reflection of those words. We also commissioned a Mexican artist to do a huge painting in the entry at Sparkman Wharf into the SPP offices, Bosco Sodi. And Bosco Sodi's coming here in January. We're doing a major solo exhibition of his work. And Bosco is going to do a performance down in Tampa Heights that he just did in Washington Square with what he calls tabula rasa, about renewal. And he builds what he calls these seed bombs. And you pick them up, and you put them in a tote bag, and you take them home and sprout the seeds. So we're going to do that for the public. We're going to make 250 of them on campus for the students, and then they'll be part of this performance at Armature Works. And that's coming up in January. Right now we're about to open Constant Storm. Constant Storm is an exhibition of Puerto Rican artists, those that live on the island and those that have moved to Central Florida, to New Jersey, and New York. It's about artists and their response, their resiliency, to things like Maria, the Hurricane Maria, to constant political and economic turmoil. We are in a climate crisis, and our Caribbean islands do suffer tremendously from these huge storms. So that's a little bit about me and what I'm doing currently, and I look forward to a question and answer. You know, I never speak without slides. I don't know how you do that. You know, I'm so used to something visual that will cue me to move on with my presentation. So you forgive me if I look at a couple of notes here. So Bill asked me, could I talk about creative industries or the creative culture? And I thought to myself, well, we're all embedded in that. And there's so many different industries that are a part of creative industries. There's listed something like 16 of them. And they include, of course, art, dance, theater, music, but also architecture, also fashion and textiles, also software design. There's so many different parts to this ecosystem, so many small organizations that are contributing. And what I noted recently from our sister city, St. Petersburg, which now calls themselves the City of the Arts, and I think that's Bill's fault for marketing that. And so the marketing is amazing, but what do they have that helps make it all work? They are cohesive. You can walk around, you can walk off the USF campus and make it over to the Dolly with no problem. You can go to see the Museum of Fine Arts, you can go look at the Mahaffey Theater. All of the organizations are fairly close in proximity. Also, they've done a tremendous job in providing livable workspaces for students, affordable housing and studio spaces. And so I think that's another real plus to what they're doing. If you really want to know, I think the arts activities in the Tampa area are equally good. And we certainly have tremendous organizations here. One of my favorite just announced they're performing again, the Tampa City Ballet coming up. But you know what? We've suffered. We've suffered during this COVID pandemic. Now, before the pandemic in 2019, you could say that, now I'm going to look at my notes. I think it was 45% of the GDP was the arts and culture sector were responsible for that. And, no, that's wrong. Erase that. That was the next statistic. I'm sorry. 4.3% of the GDP. $1 trillion was built by the cultural sector. Then comes the COVID. And here, everything, we've suffered in every possible way. I can tell you our sales are down by $250,000 at Graphic Studio. We split, by the way, sales proceeds with the artists, and we pay all the expenses of the artists working in residence. But across the board in the visual arts, it was 45% of sales came from art fairs. Do you know about art fairs like Art Basel, the one in Hong Kong, the one in London, the one in New York, Paris? These art fairs really generated the sales for many of the commercial galleries. Now this is another aspect of the arts industry. Post-COVID, or during COVID in 2020, sales were reduced to 13% from fairs, and most of those fairs were online. So all of us were really creative during this pandemic. We tried to figure out how to do things virtually. We did Life During Wartime, Art in the Age of the Coronavirus, and it was all online, 54 artists from all over the world. The silver lining, what was great was we got to go into their studios and talk with them, and they relaxed, and the conversations were really intimate. And at first those numbers for those virtual conversations were really high. But as 17 months have gone by, people are less and less inclined, maybe that's you, to do things virtually, and you want to go back to experiencing objects, right? The magic of objects. And you want to be with your friends and fellow citizens and talk about the artwork that you're experiencing. You want to hear live music, you want to see a play. I want to go to the Tampa City Ballet performance. And so I think those experiences, quality experiences, are what really make for a great city and really serve the population well. And then the other problem is, how do we make our great art experiences accessible to a broad population? How do we engage others? Not everybody in the community is going to drive out to North Tampa to come see Constant Storm. Oh, the parking's so hard. I can't find my way around that campus. Or I'm not going to go into the elite museum. I'm not going to, I don't even know what's going on. So the idea of communication and engaging our underserved populations is absolutely critical. But how can we do that? I just read yesterday, because I'm applying for another NEA resiliency grant due September 2nd. So I read the new National Endowment for the Arts strategic plan, and it's all about that. It's all about accessibility. It's all about really supporting our arts professionals and our arts organizations. And there's a huge recognition of the loss of revenue, and many, many small galleries, arts organizations have collapsed during the pandemic. So who should we revive, and how can we do it better, build back better? And so I think that's absolutely critical to the moment. So are we going to become tele-everything? Some people are predicting that we won't go back in the same way to physical experiences. The experience of being in an audience, of listening to a concert together, that it'll all be virtual and this will be adequate. But we already see it's not working for education. And I think it's going to be some sort of hybrid situation. I do believe that the technologies, Forbes just recognized Tampa as one of the leading technology centers, and we need to collaborate with AI, with creating ways of distributing what we're doing in really innovative ways. So I don't think on internet is going to go away. But I still think we have to rethink in an innovative way how to bring the arts back and how to build them so that they serve a broad audience, and how they lead Tampa and St. Petersburg and Clearwater recognition that these Tri-Cities are really at the top of their game, and that are really offering their citizens and building programs of real consequence and prestige. So, I think that too much has been made of art as a catalyst for investment. I think too much is made of it as a catalyst for investors and developers. And I think that we have to go back and say, what happens if we promote socially responsible and economically sustainable arts? My guess is that it will also fuel investment. But we're looking at the real value of what arts does for our citizens and for our prestige. And so what are 5 things, and then we'll have a conversation here, that we can do to kind of build back better and to increase the reputation and recognition of the strength of the arts in Tampa. We can do what you're doing here, what Neil Gobioff and Bill Carlson and many others, and Michelle is doing with the Arts Alliance in these town halls. We can awaken private and business leaders to social, civic value, along with the benefits to their developments and to their investments. And that means you have to have artistic excellence. There's got to be quality to those experiences. So in the next moment, I'm going to ask some of you to tell me, what was the last, most wonderful arts experience that you had that was of quality? I want to know what it was. And even if it wasn't in Tampa, I still want to know what it was. And you need curated experiences, okay? Let's curate. We all value not every cup of coffee, but a place that offers curated coffee, like the Oxford Exchange. Or we think of every kind of experience, our experience of our architecture, of placemaking, all of it has to be carefully considered and planned for and curated. I worry that too much is happening too rapidly here in Tampa. Secondly, we need to create learning opportunities that develop the workforce with skills that are highly prized in today's economy and jobs market. Where I see a huge opportunity is in the art and health industry, both in terms of helping health professionals, enhancing their observational skills, creating empathy, allowing them to work as a team. And we are doing that at USF. We had to curtail some of it during COVID, but we have a series of workshops in sound and movement, in acting, and in the visual arts with teams of young students that are in different parts of the arts profession. There's also arts therapy. We're doing a program now with the veterans, and it's photography. It's free. It's supported by the Arts Council of Hillsborough County. And so I can't tell you how many veterans have enrolled in this photography program. They produced work, we got it framed, we exhibited it, not only on campus, but in veterans hospitals across the Bay Area. We produced a catalog, and the quality of the work was extraordinary. And the last is that I get calls from the College of Business, and they want me to offer a class on how to be creative. Well, that doesn't quite work that way. You can't just say, all right, I'm going to turn you all into creative problem solvers and innovators. No, it takes a series of experiences to really understand that. And I think one of the wonderful things about Graphic Studio, which is really unique, there's only 3 professional ateliers across the country, one at the University of New Mexico, and one at the University of Washington, and Graphic Studio at the University of South Florida. They're smaller ones, but those are the 3 big ones. Tamarin, Tandem, and Graphic Studio. When you watch an artist make a print, when you understand what it takes in this collaborative environment, this magic between printers and artists, you build the work layer by layer. And students come in and meet those artists from all over the world and watch them and talk with them about how they're making their prints. So this is an example of really learning what that creative process is about. How do you solve the problems as they come up, and believe me, they come up. And how do you take the artist in a new direction or offer them some kind of technical skills or problem-solving skills that they didn't really have, and as doing that, you're also sharing that with the students and others. So I think we have to understand that the business community says they want innovators, they want creative problem solvers, and what role can the arts have in achieving that, to create learning experiences. 3, I already mentioned to you, international cultural exchange. So much of what I do is based in the Caribbean, South America. We've done a lot with Cuban artists. This is our location, and this is one of our interests. But to bring artists like Miguel Luciano here, coming up in January over in Angel Hotel, both Cuban artists and, both Puerto Rican artists, to the Tampa Bay area. And we will engage them broadly with the students on campus and broadly into the community. And 4th, I think we have to do better with public art and creative placemaking. How do we make those processes better? So I'll give you what I think is an excellent example, albeit I was one of the curators that participated. But our airport, you know what that process was? We had people from all parts of the airport authority. Of course, it was approved by the board. We went through a call. I nominated something like 45 artists and called them up and said, would you apply? The amount of commissions were reasonable, $250,000 to $500,000. We've got artists from all over the world and locally to apply for that. And we had the airport put some of the newer projects on hold, but now they're starting up again. And the quality of the work on display in the airport announces to anybody coming into Tampa, this is a real place. This is a real place that values the arts and values quality in the arts. But the only way that could have been achieved is by that selection committee. I'll give you one example. I love William Wegman. You guys know who he is. He's the artist that does the Weimaraner dogs. He's a good friend. And he proposed this huge video screen. And we were going to place it near an escalator. And I thought, this is super, you know? The dogs are going up and down the stairs. It was so funny, and it was so right and poignant. And one man on the committee says, you cannot do that. You cannot put that there. Because people are going to think it's all right to take their dogs down the escalator. And their dogs are going to get their paws caught into the escalator. Well, now I would have never thought of that. And I said, well, then, no, fine, let's move it somewhere else. But it didn't get selected. But the point I'm making is that you need really astute and highly professional people from all fields to be part of the selection process. So you have the art experts offering you and nominating great artists, and you have a committee that reviews those and thinks what will be right for the public. So I think we can do better in that arena. And I think there are other opportunities that we're not taking advantage of. One opportunity that I think I really wanted to see explored, maybe we don't have the money at the moment, but is the Riverwalk. This is one of the best features of Tampa, is our Riverwalk. How many of you have been to the High Line in New York? Have you walked along it? Have you seen the great botanical displays and the changing artwork? Well, it isn't just let some artists go out and put up artwork, or let some nurseries go put in plants. This is all curated, all carefully curated, and it's a not-for-profit. And I am a member of that, so they've got membership and support from people all over the country. So I think the Riverwalk is something that we're building, and it's getting better, and my God, it's great to be able to walk along the river, but I think we can do something even more extraordinary that will be authentically Tampa. Okay. All right. And so, just to summarize, and then we'll have a conversation. Creative industry strategy. Let's do what St. Pete did. Maybe the Arts Alliance is going to make that happen after your town halls. Let's come up with a strategy. What was so cool in St. Petersburg, it was the city of St. Petersburg, the Downtown Partnership, and the Arts Alliance that worked together to come up with a plan. So collaborations are all important. Public-private, bring not only artists together, but arts leaders and arts experts. Build on our existing advantages. And then I'll just reiterate my primary point today. Cultivate and support curators and arts professionals to help us lead the way. That's it. That's the end of my presentation. And now I invite you to ask me questions.